So we are going to work on nourishing the lungs and the heart today. So still a little bit of heart carryover. In the yoga tradition, when we put ourselves in an upside down position, so inversions or could be anything like more advanced, like a headstand or a handstand. Can you hear me, Paige?
Yeah, making it less.
Oh, too much now.
Yeah.
Once I go back, it'll sound different. Sometimes once I'm really close, it's a little bit too much. So let's see how it goes. But so when we invert our bodies, like all the fluid comes toward our heart and our lungs. It's considered very nourishing. In addition, when we're upside down, so like I said, whether it's more advanced pose like a headstand or handstand, we're not doing those. But even when we stand and fold over our legs, or even a downward facing dog, these are all considered inverted poses in yoga, where we put our heads below our hearts, and then that fluid comes toward the heart and the lungs. The other thing that happens is our diaphragm has to work a little harder when we're upside down, because we're kind of we're reversing gravity. So it strengthens our diaphragm when we do inversions, which helps our breathing process. There's a lot of benefits to being upside down. So we're going to do some upside down a little bit later in the practice. In the beginning of the practice, we're going to kind of work in the area of the rib cage and loosening up the tissue around the rib cage. Again, that can help our breathing process, because when the stuff around the ribs are tight, then the ribs can't kind of pulse with our breath. So that'll be kind of the direction of our practice today. We are going to need all the stuff. So we need a bolster to start out. Those of you who are on the more small side, grab one of the smaller bolsters. I know there's only a few of those, because you don't want to be too high up. And we are going to need a strap today. So grab that if you don't have it. And then if you have 2 blankets, that would be nice, if there's enough. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go mute everybody while you guys are getting all those props. And I'll be back on the mat. Okay, is the sound okay when I'm back here, Paige? Yeah, okay. All right, so we're going to come into a supported chest opener to start out, and we're going to work on our breath print. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So you're going to have your bolster with a folded blanket up top for your head. And then your second blanket could go under your knees, or if you want to cover up, because we're going to be here for about 5 minutes, maybe you want to cover up. Okay. And if you feel like you need to elevate your bolster, you could put a block under it, but I'm going to suggest, if it feels okay, to not do that. So we're a little bit closer to the ground. And you want to make sure your back ribs are up on the bolster, but your sacrum and your hips are off the bolster on the ground. Your legs are on the ground. And then arms are wherever they're comfortable, but just tuck your shoulder blades a little in and a little down. All right, and then we're gonna just stay there for a little bit of time, just kind of settling in. And I'm just gonna share a couple more things about the inversions that we're gonna do later. So gravity is always weighing us down, and it can even sap our strength. We stand, sit, walk with our head above our heart. And as the years rack up, we have all kinds of things that are happening because of gravity. Our tissues start to sag. We have pressure on our veins, so varicose veins, even things like hemorrhoids can be affected by gravity. And we're constantly kind of trying to pump the blood throughout the vast circulatory network, and that can be hard on our heart. So gravity is sometimes considered the silent enemy. So the yogis perform this upending of ourselves to enlist gravity's power to kind of flip that. We are very sensitive to the fluctuations of gravity because our body is more than 60% water. From the skin in, the body is dense with cells floating in a bath of intercellular fluid. So when we invert, the tissue fluids of the lower extremities drain far more effectively than like when we're asleep. Areas of congestion in the body can clear. If you can remain in an inverted posture for 3 to 5 minutes, the blood will not only drain quickly to the heart, but tissue fluids will flow more efficiently into the veins and lymph channels of the lower extremities, helping to facilitate a healthy exchange of nutrient and waste at the cells and capillaries. The major systems of the body benefit from inversions: cardiovascular, lymphatic, nervous system, and endocrine. When we invert, it's almost like the same benefit as doing aerobics. Normally we have to run really hard, get our heart pumping to circulate blood down into the feet and up the back. Not that we shouldn't do aerobics, but inversions are also a way to get the benefits to the circulatory system, especially as we get older. Inversions ensure healthier and more effective lung tissue. When we're standing upright, gravity pulls the fluids toward the earth, saturating the lower lungs more profusely. And the lower lung tissue gets more compressed than the upper lungs. The air we inhale moves naturally into the open alveoli of the upper lungs. Unless we take a good deep breath, we do not raise the ratio of air to blood in the lower lungs. When we invert, the blood perfuses the well-ventilated upper lobes and the lungs, thus ensuring more efficient oxygen to blood exchange in the healthier lung tissue. All right, so lots of benefits. So what we're going to do now is just kind of work on our breath print. So go ahead and just keep your focus on your breathing. Make sure your head's not tilting back. Can you lower chin just a little bit so the back of the neck feels long? Palms should be turned up if they're not. And that opens the collarbones a bit more. So make any adjustments. And then just soften your eyes, melt the skin of your face. Have a sense of drawing your ears inside so you can start to listen to the rhythm of your breath. Release the weight of your spine into the prop and allow the weight of your arms and legs to sink into the floor. Let go of any peripheral holding in your limbs and observe your breath's depth and rhythm. Notice your breath just as it is without making changes. This is your breath print. And then we'll do some observations to help you gain sensitivity in your lungs. Notice how your breath brushes the back of your throat and filters down into your lungs. Observe the rise and fall of your belly as your breath moves in and out. Where does your breath make contact with your ribs? How does your breath flow into your back ribs, side ribs, front ribs? Place your palms now on the top of your lower ribs on each side and breathe into your palms. Notice the way your breath moves into your left hand and your left lung, and then your right hand and your right lung. And is there a difference on one side versus the other? This information will help you determine which lung is more dominant. So just making those observations. Take a few more breaths. So if we look at a picture of the lungs, it almost looks like an upside down tree. So that the trunk of the tree is kind of more in your trachea, and then the branches of the tree go down into your lungs. We want to try and get the breath now to be very soft. Let your hands relax. And see if you can bring your breath down into those, all the little branches at the end of your lung tree. Just 3 more breaths, then we're going to come off the props and do a little work for our rib cage on our backs. After your 3rd breath, do take your time to move. Maybe just notice a little bit of effect of a simple breath practice. You can go ahead, bend your knees, roll to your side, and we're going to take the bolster out of the way and just maybe bring your head onto a folded blanket or pillow. And then we're going to come down with our feet flat, knees bent. And just go ahead, pause there for a moment once you get there. So I'm just going to wait for everyone to arrive. And then we're going to take the arms and reach them straight up overhead with the feet flat, all the way to the floor behind you, all the way to the floor. Okay. Like when we do up slip, down slip, let's go ahead and reach through right arm and then left arm. And as you do so, just feel like you're really taking your rib cage away from the side waist. Reach through your arms, like your rib cage moves away from your pelvis. And we're lengthening that tissue of the side body. So I talk about this a lot, but because we sit a lot, we shorten the tissue underneath the rib cage, and that also inhibits our diaphragm movement, and our diaphragm muscles just get weak, and our breath is not as efficient. All right, go ahead and pause. And we're going to take the hands behind the back of the head, interlace the hands. Keep your feet flat, but like when we do the banana pose, some of you might remember, we're going to take our whole upper body to the right. So start to walk your shoulders, your rib cage, your elbows, your head. Keep walking until you feel a little lengthening on the left side of your body. And then we're going to breathe here. Try to drop your ribs down into the ground. Send your breath into that left side of your ribs. We're going to add a little pulsation of movement here. So we're going to take an inhale, and as you exhale, squeeze your right waist towards your right elbow, and then soften. And do that a few times. Right elbow and hip draw towards each other, and release. At the same time, reach through left elbow. One more. And now hold it, let your rib cage drop. One more breath into the left side. And then let's make our way back to the center. So when you did that initial observation and you notice which rib cage or which lung was more dominant, you might have more compression on one of the sides than the other. So if you were to do this on your own, you could spend a little more time on that non-dominant side. But today we're going to keep things even. Let's go ahead to the left now. So really lift your shoulder blades, shift them over, rib cage shifts over. You're in a side bend. So do a lot of side bends today. And then pause, let your ribs drop. And breathe into your belly. Breathe into the right side ribs. Now we're going to start that little pulsation. So left hip and elbow squeeze towards each other as you reach through your right elbow. And then soften and do a few more. One more time. And then pause, let everything drop again. Take a breath. All right, let's make our way back to the center. Release your arms and pause. Keep the feet flat for a moment. Take your left leg out straight and take your right arm out to a T. So we're going to do the somatic movement called unwinding. We're going to add a little rib basket stretching. So take your right knee, drop it over to the left, and take your left hand and hold toward the bottom of your right rib cage. And you're going to pull your right rib cage to the left as you look over your right shoulder. So you're helping that rib cage to rotate. And then you'll release back down to the start. Okay, so keep that left hand on your right ribs. Let your right knee drop to the left. Pull your rib cage over to the left, like you're trying to help your body roll over, but you're going to look over your right shoulder. Press in your foot, lift the right hip, and release. Good. So hands should be at the lower rib cage. One more time. And now we're going to take that hand to the middle of the rib cage and repeat. Pull the rib cage to the left. And continue 2 more times with the hand in the middle of the rib cage. Let the head roll to the right. One more. Good. Now we're going to take the hand up by the highest part of the rib cage, sort of close to your armpit. See if you can grab behind your shoulder blade and pull. So this stretches out the tissue in the back of the lungs, back of the rib cage, back of the shoulder. Also, you might feel it through your chest and your arm. One more. And then relax, arms down, legs out. Take a pause and just feel that whole right side for a moment. Feel how the breath moves into that right side. Now let's even ourselves out, bend the left knee. Left arm out to the side. Take the right hand across, hold the lower side of your rib cage. And then the left knee drops to the right, look over your left shoulder and pull that rib cage like you're trying to lift it off the ground. And then repeat a few more in this position. We'll do a few in the bottom, a few in the middle, and then at the top. If your hand's like getting a little bit like you can't quite reach, you can even pull on your clothing. That actually works too. Those of us with shorter arms, go to the middle if you haven't. And then to the top near the armpit, right behind the armpit. Trying to actually pull the back of the shoulder a little forward. 2 more. Okay, let's release back to the center, both legs out. Pause and notice the left side. Notice maybe there's a little more breath flow through the left side. Okay, let's bend our knees. We're going to roll to the side. And we're going to come on up into a seated posture. We're going to grab your strap, please. So feel free to sit up onto a prop. It's a lot of breath work today. We're going to take our strap and make a loop in it if there's no loop, and we're going to be putting it around the rib cage with the buckle in the front so you can easily adjust it. So you put it over your head and make sure there's no kinks in it. That's not going to work so well. Okay, so I'll give you guys a minute, and then once you have your loop, you're going to tighten it up like a corset around your rib cage, so below your chest, like top to middle rib cage region, and have that buckle toward the front so you can pull on it at any time. We want it to be nice and snug. Okay. So this is to give us a little bit of feedback. We're going to try breathing into the front, into the back, and into the sides, kind of one at a time. So first, just sit up tall, widen out your sit bones, lengthen the crown of your head. And let's see if we can put our hands on the front of the strap. And then send your breath into the front of the strap. So this is more commonly where we breathe in the front body, but we often breathe more up here, training ourselves to get the breath to go lower and deeper. Good. Now let's bring at least one hand over to the right side and see if you can send the breath over here onto the right side. So really kind of try to isolate it over to the right. See if you're able to do that. Sometimes it's hard initially to direct our breath. Good, and then switch over to the other side, or to the left side, and see if you can breathe into your left rib cage. Is one side easier than the other, or more accessible? We're still breathing into the whole space, but it's more intentional to the other side. All right, lean forward a little bit so you can get your hands to the back somewhere, back ribs. And you might need to stay a little bit leaned forward, but if you can, sit up tall, because remember when we lean forward, it inhibits that diaphragm a bit. So sit up tall and try to breathe into your back ribs. So my teachers, there's a lot of benefit into breathing into side and back ribs because it's more of a stagnant area that we don't always access. One more here. All right, let's go ahead and release, and you can take your strap off. So that's just a little awareness training to try and get you to be able to breathe into more parts of your breathing space. All right, let's go ahead, inhale, reach the arms overhead when you're ready. Interlace your palms and press your palms up. Get nice and tall here. Lift those rib cage up. Maybe just kind of a little side to side wiggle movement. Really teasing out the side of the waist. Keep it nice and tall. Now release the right hand down. And we're gonna walk the hand out here. So go as far as you feel comfortable. And then see if you can push through your right palm, get your left sit bone grounded. So as that sit bone drops, it allows for expansiveness through the side of the left rib cage. Pause here, and as you inhale, can you reach a little more through that top arm? And then we're going to direct the breath into that top rib cage area. And as you hold here, if you feel like deepening it at all, you can start to bend the elbow. It gets to be a pretty deep side bend, so listen, your body only go as far as it feels good for you. One more breath, really reach. Let the sit bone drop on that left side. Good, now to come up, first take your arm up, down to your hip. Tone your belly, push your left hip toward the ground and slowly come up. So that little push assists us so we're not yanking on the muscles. And just pause, take a breath. Just feel into that top side that we just opened. And then let's do it again on the other side. Inhale, reach your arms up. Interlace your palms, press up nice and tall. Maybe a little teasing out, little wiggle side to side, get that rib cage up there. Good, and then release, hand down, walk it out. Once you find like that first kind of stopping point, push your left palm to the left and get the right sit bone to drop. And then from here, deepen as you wish. You might just start to reach that arm a little bit more. Maybe that bottom elbow bends a little bit. And then hold. Keep dropping right sit bone and reaching through that top arm. Now, if your back bothers you here, make sure you get some weight toward the back of your sit bones. Sometimes if we tilt anteriorly in the pelvis, our lower back can feel cranky in a side bend. One more breath. And slowly release, coming back up, and just take a pause in the center and just see how that feels on that other side now. Right. Okay, let's come into our tabletop position, all fours. And we're gonna do a little isometric work with our palms today. So I'm gonna show you guys, watch up here for a second. So as I inhale, I'm gonna slightly rotate my palms externally, and it's isometric. So I'm not like turning them. It's like an energetic turn out on the inhale and turn in on the exhale. And you're not gonna be moving far, but we're gonna add that little action into our cat-cow. It's like we're screwing our hand into the floor like a doorknob that's stuck or something. So I'll talk you through it. In our tabletop position, spread wide through your palms. Inhale and kind of screw those palms externally like you're turning a tight knob. And then exhale, turn the palms in. The elbows might kind of bend out toward the sides a bit. And then continue. Inhale, turn them out. Exhale, turning in. Now they're not going anywhere, they're not actually moving. It's just isometrically turning them in, turning them out. Let's do 3 more cycles. One more round. After you finish that 3rd round, go ahead and release. Come back to child's pose. And child's pose is a great place to access the back ribs. So while you're in your child's pose, can you send a little breath into your back ribs. All right, so we're gonna come up onto our knees. You might want some padding, and we're gonna have 2 blocks on either side of you. And we're gonna stand up on the knees. We're gonna do gate pose. So it's a great side bend for accessing the rib cage. Okay, we're gonna step the right foot out to the side. So make sure you have padding under your knees here if the knees are tender. And then we're gonna lift the front of the belly, lengthen the tailbone down. Let's inhale, reach the arms up and find that interlace of the palms and press up. And that little bit of teasing the side waist a little bit longer. Keep it nice and high. Release your left hand down to your block. And you're gonna put that block under your shoulder. Good. Inhale, reach that top arm up nice and high. And then we're gonna take it over the ear. Now, if this feels pretty mild, take your block and lower it down. Some of you might not even need it here. You could even go to the floor, but I wanted to have it there, and for some of you might need it. Pull your tailbone into your body. That'll keep that anterior tilt out of your lower back. And then reach, reach, reach through that top arm. From here, we're gonna make some big circles. A little bit of a back bend. Open that arm up to the back, circle it around, and then come back. Let's do that a few rounds. Circle around, open up the front of the lung tissue, top ribs, armpit. One more circle. Let's hold it in that open position for just a moment. Good, and then take it back over the ear and stretch. Good, next inhale, we're coming back up to the center position, and we're gonna bring our hand down to the other block. So that'll go under your shoulder, and take your top arm, reach it straight up. Once again, pull the tailbone down, the hip points are lifting up so we don't have so much of a big curve in the lower back. And then we're gonna side bend over to the other direction. Any amount, again, you could lower your block if this is pretty mild. We're gonna keep pulling the tailbone down, root the left thigh down. You should feel a little engagement in that left outer hip, and then reach through the top arm. One more breath. And then slowly come back up. Let's bring the hands down to the ground and bring that knee back in. Good. If you need to get off your knees for a moment, just do a quick down dog, a little pedal out. And just stay there if you're comfortable. And then we're going to do that sequence on the other side, knees down, make sure the knees are well padded. And we'll come back up to stand on the knees when you are ready. Good. Okay, inhale, reach the arms up. Oh, sorry. Let's take the left leg out first. That'll be easier. Keep that leg out. Then we'll take the arms up. Once the arms are up, it's harder to move the leg. Interlace your palms, press up, tease out the sides of the waist. Good, and then let's bring that right hand down onto the block. Remember that block can go at any level. Inhale, reach up nice and high, pull your tailbone in, and then arm reaches over your ear. That's it. Sometimes it helps to find a little spiral in the arm. So we turn the pinky forward toward the direction you're looking in, and that helps wrap the shoulder blades. We get pinchy in the shoulder blade. Sometimes it's good to get that rotation of the arm bone. Good, now let's start those circles. Open up to the back and circle that top arm around a bit, a few times. Inhale, open up. Exhale to the front. One more. And then on the next one, let's hold it open for an extra moment. Circle and just open up, stretch the chest open, and then back over your ear. reach, reach. And then we're going to come up. So carefully bringing yourself back up to the vertical. Good, and then let's inhale, reach the arms up. We're going to the other side. Palms reach. And then hand comes to the block. So on this side, the block might need to be a little higher. So keep that block up. And then reach the top arm up, pull your tailbone in, and then you can add a deeper side bend as you like. Remember, this outer hip could tone in. If we let that hip kind of pop out to the side, it's going to be less effective. Keep the pelvis nice and stable. And keep reaching long through that top arm. One more breath, reach a little bit more. And bring it back. And we're going to bring the hands down, step it in, and come back to child's pose once again. So just take a moment there, let go of that work. If you have a blanket on your mat, now would be a good time to remove it. And we're going to make our way to downward facing dog from all fours and transition to stand up. So good bend in your knees, walk your hands back toward your feet, fold forward. Here's an inversion where the blood flow is going to our lungs, top of the lungs toward our heart. And then we're going to bend the knees, hands to hips, and come all the way up. So we'll do more inverting in a bit. Couple more times for some side bend work. Feet are about hips distance apart. Inhale, reach the arms overhead. We're going to turn the right palm up and bend your elbow to the side. Good, and then hold your wrist. Good, so I'm going to hold that right wrist. Inhale, lengthen up tall, and as you exhale, side bend over towards your left side. Keep those elbows bent initially. Good. Inhale, come up, rooting into your feet. Exhale, side bend. And this time, see if you can straighten your arms, push them out to the side. And then bend and come back up. So remember, if this bothers your lower back, we've got to pull the tailbone down, lift the belly. One more time. Inhale. Exhale, side bend, strong legs. Root those feet into the ground and then extend that arm. Reach, reach, reach. Good. Pull it back in and up to the top. Release and fold forward over your legs. Coming into that inversion. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, we rise up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Good. Okay, let's do that side bend on the other side. Remember, listen to your body. Some of these side bends are really deep. If it bothers your lower back, don't go as far. And remember that neutral pelvis is helpful. So arms up, we're going to turn the left palm up. Hold your wrist, your right hand. Inhale, and as you exhale, side bend. So first round, we're not extending. We're just starting to get the body used to that side bend. And then we inhale, come up. Exhale, side bend. This time, hold it, strong legs. Pull the tailbone down and try to reach and extend through those arms. Good, bring it back in and up to stand. 2 more times. Inhale here. Exhale, side bend and extend. Feel that lengthening of the tissue on the side ribs. Bring it back in and up to vertical. 1 more time. Inhale. Exhale, side bend and reach it. To your capacity. You don't have to go as far as I'm going. Go back in, all the way up, and then release. Fold forward over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, we rise. Exhale, draw your hands to your heart. Very good. Okay, we're gonna step out wide on the mat. So you're gonna face your side wall. Step your feet apart. Get ready for some warrior sequences here. So it doesn't matter, we're gonna just work on the right side first. Doesn't matter which way you're facing. Okay, let's turn the right leg out, left toes in a bit, widen the left heel, and we come into warrior two. So bend that knee, reach the arms out to the side. Good. Turn your palms up for a moment. It helps us get those shoulders back. Reach through your fingertips. And then we're going to take the arms overhead and we're going to turn that right palm up and hold your right wrist, just like we did before. Now imagine your front knee, your right knee is pressing on a wall to the right. So just press it open a little bit so it's not dropping in. Good. Inhale here, exhale to reverse warrior toward the back plane, toward the left leg. Good, and then come back up. Remember to aim your tailbone down. Inhale, exhale to the back. Good, hold it, really firm that back outer hip and then try to straighten those arms toward the back, any amount. Good, come back in and back up to the vertical. Inhale here, exhale to the back and extend to your capacity, rooting into your feet. Good, come back up to the center. This time we're going to straighten the front leg, do the same thing, inhale, root down through your legs, exhale to the back. Now, both legs straight, try to extend those arms again to the back if you can. Good, inhale, come back up and release back to your warrior two. Good, inhale, straighten the legs, straighten the arms, parallel your feet. And then let's go right to side two, adjust your feet so now you're going toward your left side. Okay, turn your palms up, externally rotate, get those shoulders back. Root down into your heels and press that left knee toward the imaginary wall to the left. And then take your arms overhead, turn your left palm up, hold your wrist. Inhale here, exhale toward the back, toward a reverse warrior. Good, inhale, come up, no extension the first round. Exhale to the back, keep that back leg strong, root into the heel, and then straighten those arms any amount. Good, coming back to the vertical. One more time. To the back, extend. And back to the vertical, and then we're going to do it one more time with the legs straight. Straighten that left leg. Good, root down into the heels, legs strong. Inhale, exhale to the back, and extend to your capacity. Good, bring it back in, back up to the start. Warrior two, release your arms, and then straighten the leg. Parallel your feet, and we're going to step it back in for a moment and shake it out. Okay, so we did a lot of work for the rib cage. Now let's transition to doing some of the inverted poses. So we opened up all this tissue in here, really good for our breath. We're going to do a wide leg forward fold. If you know it's hard to get to the ground, grab your blocks. If you know you can get to the ground without, no need to have those blocks. We're going to step the feet apart wide again. Turn your toes in just a hair, heels out a hair. So we're just a tiny bit pigeon-toed. And just bring hands on the hips for a moment. You can set your blocks right in front of you. Good. Bend those knees a little bit, which makes it easier to hinge at your hips. Keep your shoulders back. Inhale here, and as you exhale, hinge at your hip creases. And let's bring those hands down to the floor or your blocks. Good. Keep those knees a little bent initially. We're in the halfway up shape. Reach your chest forward like you're trying to tease that rib cage away from your pelvis. Now you could stay here, especially if you have untreated high blood pressure. Those of you who feel okay to go forward are going to take the forward fold, which is more of the inversion. So when you're ready, keep your sit bones tipping up and start to let your head descend downward. Walk your hands back closer towards your feet if you can. Some of you might hold your ankles or your big toes. And the aim is to get the crown of the head toward the ground as far as like direction goes. Doesn't have to touch the ground, but aim the crown of the head toward the ground and start to tip your pelvis upward. And that'll help you get a little bit more into that inverted shape. Some things that help here. Root your leg bones down into the ground. You want to engage those legs, engage the front of the quadriceps. And think about your sacrum tipping into your body, which will help you get more of a forward fold. Now, we're not going to stay 3 to 5 minutes, as that opening little passage said. We are going to do that in another pose that'll be more accessible. But let's try for 2 or 3 more breaths. Those of you, if you need to come out sooner, please do so, but only go really slowly when you come out. Now, notice how it might be a little harder to breathe when you're upside down, harder for your diaphragm. This is strengthening your diaphragm, so when we're upright, it will make it easier to breathe. After your 3rd breath, come up to the halfway up shape. Heel toe your feet in a little bit closer, and then we'll bring hands to hips. Root down into those feet with your knees bent and press yourself all the way up to stand. Very good. And just take a moment once you're vertical to readjust. You were down there a long time, maybe close to a minute, I would say. And have 1 more breath. All right. So we're going to be coming down onto the floor from here for supported bridge. So supported bridge is very similar to legs up the wall. Those of you who want to do legs up the wall, you can. I'm not there to help you, to teach it to you. So those of you who know it, instead of doing supported bridge with the legs up, you could go against a wall. So let's come down onto our backs, or if you're going to go to the wall, go to the wall. And we're just going to use a block and do it in the middle of the room. So it's not quite as restful as when the legs are against the wall. So we're not going to put the block in till we're on our back. So have your block nearby. And we're going to come down with our feet flat. Okay. So if you're doing it as legs up the wall, you don't need the block. You can just be flat on the ground or even on a bolster if you prefer. Those of you doing it in the middle of the room, slide your block under your sacrum. And that's already lifting you up a little bit. That might be pretty mild. If it is, we're going to turn the block up today to level 2. So come high on the balls of your feet and turn your block up to level 2 and keep that flat part under your sacrum. If that's too much, stick with level 1. Tip your tailbone up a little bit, and then the next phase, we're going to try and take those legs up into the air. So bring your knees in and extend your legs up straight. Tuck your shoulders in a little bit so you feel a little lifted through your heart. And we'll stay here now for a few minutes. Nice soft breath. So I'm going to have you guys stay there. I'm coming out so I can share another little reading with you about the area we're working on. Certainly if legs get too tired, you could bring them down. If you're at the wall, it'll be nice to rest them there. So this is from one of my teacher's books. Our lungs resemble an upside down tree, wherein the roots of the tree are located around the upper palate, the trunk is the windpipe, and the branches extend into the lobes of the lungs. Due to the amount of space that the heart occupies in the ventral chest cavity, the branches of the lung tree extend primarily to the back of the chest and down to the diaphragm, which is why it's nice to breathe into those back lungs. There are a multitude of twigs and branches called bronchioles that stem off the main trunks of the left and right bronchi. The bronchioles split again and again, terminating in super fine, porous, membranous tips. These tips form clusters called alveoli, and there are approximately 300 million in each lung. The exchange that occurs in breathing is somewhat like the process of photosynthesis, so very much like the leaves of a tree. Through the alveoli, which resemble bunches of grapes, a gas fluid exchange occurs by capillary action as oxygen-rich prana is suffused into the bloodstream and carbon dioxide is drawn out of the blood. The extensive network of capillaries in the lungs is so vast that if laid end to end, they would travel the distance of 1,000 miles. Go ahead, slowly bring those legs back down and stay in your supported bridge for a couple more moments. So the aim of our breath practice is to establish a full canopy for the lung tree. Just as trees have withering tree branches that obstruct the flow of sap, nutrients, and water, it is common for some bronchioles to restrict the flow of air. We might have clogs or adhesions that keep the air sacs from inflating, like leaf buds at the tip of tree branches that fail to open in the spring. This can be caused by lung disease, stagnation, pneumonia, coughing, smoking, trauma, and restrictions around the chest wall, which we worked on alleviating today. All right, so go ahead, lift your hips and take that block out, come all the way back down, and just let everything settle, either with feet flat, or you can take your legs out for a moment. Just pause there. One more breath. All right, we're gonna bend the knees and take the feet as wide as the mat and just let the knees drop together for a moment, lengthening that lower back by lifting the hips and sliding the sacrum a little bit towards your feet. And then take your arms into the goalpost position, nice open chest. And we're gonna take a few more breaths there. We did a lot of side bending and all those standing things we did today. So I just want to end with sort of a neutral position for the spine. As you stay here, can you aim the breath into your side and back ribs? The belly should still rise and fall a bit. We're letting that movement of the diaphragm happen. Three more breath cycles here. All right, let's go ahead now, bring the knees into the chest. We make some little circles on the lower back. Sometimes the side bending can be a little cranky on our low back and SI joints, so just circle it around a bit. And then let's reverse, go the other direction. So that was a bit more of like a breath focus, more kind of relaxing practice today. I hope that it helped you get a little bit more of an awareness of the lungs and how those inversions can be helpful. Let's go ahead and come into happy baby. If you like a happy baby, you can also do any other pose that might feel good here. Again, try to keep that spine neutral. Breathing into side and back ribs while you hold this pose. All right, go ahead, hug in one more time, and then you can find your Shavasana from here. So feel free, if you want to use that bolster setup again, it's available if you want to be up on the bolster, or you could just be flat onto the ground with something under your knees and head. So I'll give you a couple moments to set that up. Take your time, get yourself comfortable, warm, settled. And let those back ribs and the backs of your lungs get heavy into the ground. As if all the fluid of your lungs were just pooling into the backs of your lungs. Very much said in Chinese medicine that our kidneys capture our prana from our lungs. So when we're breathing properly and that breath is going deeper into our lungs, it really is revitalizing, as opposed to when we breathe a shallow breath and then the kidneys can't capture the prana. So we're going to do the gentle rain breath here, we've done before. So imagine the breath trying to reach those lower aspects of our lungs where all those little branches are going off in all different directions. And the softer the intake of the breath, like a gentle rainfall as opposed to a heavy rainfall, it's going to soak in and penetrate deeper, finding all those little buds at the ends of the branches that open and close. Just imagine that process happening. It's very nourishing for our lung tissue. And of course, nestled in between is the area of the heart. So inversions that we did, benefiting our heart, our lungs, our vitality, our diaphragm. Continue to let that breath be super, super soft. So inverting also gives our heart a break. The heart is working to ensure that freshly oxygenated blood makes its way up to the brain and our sensory organs. When we go upside down and invert, the pressure differential differential across the body is reversed, and blood floods the carotid arteries in the neck. It is believed that the baroreceptors that calibrate blood flow to the brain sense the increase in blood, slow the flow, and can reduce our blood pressure and our heart rate. It's really good for heart rate variability. So it's not necessarily been clinically established that inversions can lower blood pressure over the long haul. In fact, if we have untreated high blood pressure, we're not going all the way down, as I mentioned in that one pose. But studies are, just general indications is that it's good for our blood pressure to do some inversions if we're not in that untreated acute state. We're also getting benefit to our lymphatic system when we go upside down, which encourages the release of waste in our bodies. So lots of good stuff. Let's take another minute or two just to rest. All right, everyone. So start to come back to awareness. Take a couple deeper breaths. Try to move slowly at first. Gentle movements. Coming to your side when you are ready to before find your way to that seated posture. I'm just going to sit up tall for a moment once you arrive there, so take your time. You sit up on a prop, widen the sit bones. We'll lengthen up through the crown of the head, let the chin slightly drop, so back of the neck is long. Come back to that sense of kind of watering the lungs with your breath. Maybe you close your eyes. So we can imagine the lungs as its own little mini environment, almost like a little terrarium. And at the bottom of the lungs, we imagine soil, earth, and then water. In the middle of the lungs would be like the light and the sun and fire element. And at the top of the lungs would be air and space. So if we can breathe into those lower lungs, down to the earth and water, this is considered more settling and grounding for our system. If we breathe up into the middle and upper lung, that's going to increase that feeling of fire and wind, which encourages in our minds and bodies restlessness, busyness, anxiety, panic, and agitation in the breath. So as we let that breath be softer and subtler toward the bottom aspects of the lungs, it's going to be much better for managing our stress in life. Take a few more breaths. See if you can feel that breath in the side and back ribs. All right, let's bring hands together now in front of the heart space. And take an inhale, and as you exhale, bow your head down. Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much for being with me today. And I hope you have a very stress-free rest of your day.